I'm going to graph a quadratic equation, which I know is going to result in that parabola shape, and I'm going to graph it using the intercepts. Now, if you remember, with any sort of parabola shape, there's usually going to be two x-intercepts. So what does that mean? If there's two x-intercepts and a y-intercept, I'm going to have 3 points. So if I have those 3 points, I can get a pretty good idea of the shape of the graph. Okay, so in terms of finding the x and y-intercepts, it's the same as it would be for a line. If I want the x-intercept, I plug in 0 for y and solve for x, right? So my y value is going to be 0, and my x value is going to be a number, right? Any point that's like this, a number comma 0, that's going to be a point that lands on the x-axis when I graph it. And for the y-intercept, I'm going to plug in 0 for x and solve for y. So here it's going to be 0, comma, a number. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is, once I have these points, now look, these, there's going to be 2 of them. Okay, there's only going to be one y-intercept, okay, just because of the shape of the parabola, that's kind of the way it is. And then we're going to plot the intercepts and sketch the parabola. Okay, so let's take a look. Okay, this one's already written on your paper, so I'm just going to go through it really quick. I'm going to plug in 0 for y here. Look, here's the equation. I'm going to plug in 0 for y. Okay, now what do? We put the 0 over here. Why? There's not really a good reason, right? This is just kind of how it's written. We put the 0 on the right side. Okay, so now what did I do next? Look, I want to be able to solve this equation. This is called solving by factoring. Okay, this is called solving by factoring. So watch what I do. I'm ignoring the 0, and I'm going to factor this quadratic expression. I need 2 numbers that multiply to 15 and add to 8. That's 5 and 3. So I do that. Then, look, I have a number times a number equals 0. Well, if a number, look, this is a number. Like, let's say x is 2, this is the number 5. And this is the number 7, right? These are just numbers. If a number times a number equals 0, that means one of the numbers must equal 0. So either x plus 3 must equal 0, or x plus 5 must equal 0. So I set up those 2 equations and I solve. And I get x equals -3. So that's this point, -3, and y is 0. Right? That's what we plugged in. Or I get x is -5 and y is 0. Okay, so those are my 2 x-intercepts. Okay, now we're going to graph at the end. And then I'm going to plug in 0 for x. Now when I plug in 0 for x, right, look, here's my equation, and I plug in 0. And notice what happens. X squared, 0 squared, 0. 8 times 0, 0. So my y-intercept is just 15. Look, pretty easy, right? There's a shortcut. My y-intercept is 15, and it's x is 0, y is 15. So then I take these 3 points, 1, 2, 3, and I'm just sketching them on my graph. So I put 0, 15 here. Obviously, -5, 0 is going to be a little bit closer to the origin than the 15 was. And so that's like a basic sketch of my graph. Okay, let's do one more. So here I'm going to replace the y with a 0. So I'm going to write x squared minus 4x minus 45. And instead of it equaling y, it's going to equal 0. Okay, so look, I skipped this step, right? I wrote it in here so that you could kind of see it, but I skipped that one here. Okay, now let's factor. It still equals 0. Look, this is x squared, so x times x equals x squared. And I need 2 numbers that multiply to -45 and add to 4. Now, if I'm multiplying to a negative, I need 1 positive and 1 negative. Okay, and then my 2 numbers need to multiply to 45, and when I add them, since they're different signs, they'll subtract. So what are 2 numbers that multiply to 45 and subtract to 4? That's 9 and 5. And since I want them to add to -4, I'm going to make my larger number negative. So here it's factored. So now if this number times this number equals 0, either this number equals 0 or this number equals 0. All right, I'm going to solve. I get x equals -5, so that's this x-intercept, -5, 0. X equals 9 here, and this intercept, 9, 0. Okay, so those 2 points, again, I'm going to graph at the end. Now let's do the y-intercept. I'm going to plug in. Here's my equation, y equals x squared. Look, I'm not going to copy it. Y equals x squared. I'm just going to plug in the 0. Minus 4 times x, right? I'm plugging in 0 for x, minus 45. Okay, 0 squared is 0. 4 times 0 is 0. I just get y equals -45. All right, so let's take a look. -45. So look, this is the point. This is y, but remember I plugged in 0 for x. So this is this point, 0, -45. Now here's the benefit of me not printing the grid, right? That's a big old number, but we're just gonna put it down here, right? That's 0, -45 right there. And then let's see, I have this point, -5, 0. So that's gonna be like, I don't know, like we're just eyeballing it, right? It's gonna be, obviously like we could have put -5 here, but since we put 45, right? Pretty close. And then like, here's 9, 0, right? So this is -5, 0. and 9, 0, and I'm just going to sketch my graph, right? I know it's going to be this kind of U parabola shape, so I'm just going to sketch it in a way that's symmetrical, right? That it could be folded in half. All right, there it is, and you're going to try the rest of these 4.